building, all of those. I know, right? Isn't that terrible?
Why can't it be the student center?
That's what I was wondering, because I almost walked over there myself.
Shoot, good thing you told me, 'cause I was gonna walk to the student center. I would have been mad.
I know. So, yes, there's International Food Day.
So
I want to encourage you guys to,
I might just leave early.
yeah,
Because I guess there's a guest speaker.
yes, because she's a guest speaker. There is veggie chili, which I was excited about.
Do you
And,
like being vegan? You sometimes miss meat.
I do.
Which one do you like, chicken or cow?
Chili.
Or pork?
Probably the cow, as the chili's made out of cow.
Well, you miss meat because you miss eating chili.
Probably. I'm sure. Mm-hmm.
You could have some like tofu chili.
I got to show all the students the International Food Day I have right here. But I need a light. Ready?
What's the Is it working or something?
Wait, doesn't the iPhone?
You can put a flash on it. If you want.
I know. It's not working.
The light's not working?
There it is. Veggie chili, desserts, bubble tea. I bet nobody's had the bubble tea. Bubble tea. Oh, yeah, that light's not working either. Is that what you're asking about? I don't know why that one.
Didn't it just go off like 2 minutes ago? I mean, like 2 days ago.
I remember it being weird that it wouldn't turn on.
Is people already online yet?
Nobody's online because it still is 3 minutes early.
How come you don't use Zoom?
I am
Like your
using
online class.
Zoom on this one.
How come you don't use Zoom on your online class?
I like that this automatically saves it.
It says you can save it.
I know, but Zoom, then I would have to post you the link.
Um,
Like I don't have to dig in, find it, just like you guys don't want to dig in, website, find it. This is at least on the same channel every day.
oh.
Zoom, I would have to save the link, put it up, and this is like automatic. So that way, I have Zoom. I'm on it right now.
She's not coming on fast enough.
She probably won't until right at 2:30. Oh,
Oh, she's here.
I'll let her know. Okay. That for some reason our light's out too.
That'll make sense. Great to be out.
I know, and that it's International Food Day just by random chance.
Did they have Taiwanese? What did they have for that?
It looked like dessert and bubble tea.
That's it?
Mm-hmm. So that is your International Food Day.
Did they have
Hello. How are you? Sorry that for whatever reason, our light is out in the classroom. And, oh yeah, I was going to add the link to the online part, but I'm basically filming so that I could share for another class, just that you're okay with it.
Okay, that's fine. I was also going to ask, can I film just the first 5 minutes for documentation purposes?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
A lot of our students are mostly still online as I give them the pandemic option.
Mhm.
I wonder why that won't send. I'm trying to send them, it has too many characters. I see.
what does that mean?
Like you can only send 200 in the chat at a time. So now it'll let me send. It says join Zoom. So I have early student, and it's also my class overlaps with International Food Day also. So I'm letting them know that I'm filming it, and they're also able to watch it in arrears, and they won't be penalized because I don't want anyone to miss International Food Day.
Right, okay.
I think if I go there, it's not grapes. Did they have fruit with it?
There is some fruit. I saw blueberries. You don't like blueberries?
Nasty. They don't taste good. I don't like
Before you
raspberries.
go, though, would you like to just sit down and introduce yourself?
Me?
Yes. That way,
Okay.
we know that it's a real class. You can tell her it's a real class, even though we filmed it.
It's a real class.
Okay.
It's a real class. Yeah. Oh, okay. My name is Jamaican. I'm a social work major. I'm a sophomore. Don't know what to do in social work.
Well, you just started. You're brand new. You're a year in.
Right.
Yeah, I just started. I have
That's
two
okay.
options, but I don't know if I'm gonna do them yet. So
And you're
You
doing
know.
good.
I'll just take Mr. Trout's food. That's what
I know. You could have. I did take 2 pieces of this. You want one of the other piece of this?
What is that?
I don't even know what it is, but you can have the other piece
I
of
want a piece of it. I don't want the big piece.
it. Yeah. So they have like crepes. They have.
What is it? Cranberry?
It sounds that was like cranberry bread. They had a vegan chili. They have Dominican
Mm.
chicken. They have Tanzanian chicken and fried rice.
They got meals?
There, you'll be full if you eat from every station. I just didn't have time. As the class, I ran, got food, and I came back.
I would have grabbed. Oh, wait, you're vegan.
I'm vegetarian, so I had to get all the weird food, and then that's the
You can't even get chicken.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'm vegetarian too.
Okay, yeah. Ever since I lived in Nicaragua, that's been for forever. So
How come you? So you went vegan in Nicaragua?
I did.
Why?
Because a lot of them lived off beans and rice. And in solidarity, I ate that way and I still eat that way 23 years later.
I thought because you saw a chicken with his head cut off. I would have went vegan.
Oh, I saw it. You're right. So in El Salvador, they served me a fish and it was looking at me with the eyeball. The fish had the eyeball in it. It was staring at me.
I can't eat. Some people eat the eyeballs. I can't.
A fish?
Like a fish
Are
eyeball.
you serious?
I can't really. I can't see myself doing it.
I feel bad for him, man.
I think it's like a culture thing. 'Cause
Mhm.
I think I read something where like her favorite part was a fish.
It's
was
probably
eyeballs.
healthy. I'm sure there's a lot of minerals and vitamins in it,
Yeah,
but
I can't see myself doing it.
I haven't even eaten fish since 1999. I guess it's only been 22 and a half years.
Well, if you're a vegetarian and you only eat fish, that's what pescatarian.
Yes, pescatarian is what a lot of people like to do.
That's what my grandmother does. I think does
Mm-hmm.
not doing it. She did it. She's vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't know, and like we didn't like eating meat around her.
Okay.
Because we thought it would be rude.
Right.
Like you can't eat it anymore. But she still made meat for us.
Yeah, I'm okay with my kids eating meat. It's fine. I mean, they have to develop healthy too, and there's not many choices. I choose to eat vegetarian though.
You should
I-
follow her.
Huh?
This woman on TikTok. She Tabitha Brown.
Uh-huh.
She makes like vegan meals.
Really?
Yeah, she made like hamburgers, like without beans.
You remind me of a video I'm going to try to show before the last class of a woman who's been vegetarian she's a raw foodist vegetarian for like 50 years.
I remember that.
And she looks like she's 25.
I remember that.
Uh-huh.
I told my mom about that. She
Wow.
was like, "Well, how did she not go to the hospital?" Because I think if you're like a raw vegetarian,
Right.
fruit vegetarian, like
Right.
you go, like you're gonna. I think because you're gonna be hospitalized. 'Cause you're not
Everybody
gonna, like,
asked that. How do you not die? I mean, my mom thought I was going to die and snuck meat into my dish every day when I was the first new vegetarian.
I feel bad.
So. Well, you go get your food. We'll have this video saved for you.
Okay.
I got Kamira online. She said raw food is crazy. All right. So that way I can let you give us a HBCU cares presentation.
Yes, I will. And I'm just sending you, since you have some virtual students, I have like a sign in link and an
Oh.
evaluation. after.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
So I'm gonna send that to you through email. So
Okay.
you can send that to them because they're not, I mean, they could scan it, I guess, when they watch it, but
Correct.
just
Okay.
in case.
Yeah, I'll let them have that link too.
Okay, so I'll do that later, but let me put the presentation on. Am I able to share?
Absolutely.
Okay. It says it's disabled.
Oh, so I have to. Okay, so you can tell how bad I am on Zoom. How do you do that? Is that like?
I think if you go to where you would usually share screen.
Oh,
I think
right,
you
I
have
see that.
options.
Okay.
Okay.
So wait, I'm doing the wrong thing though. I'm about to share my screen, right? I want to allow you to share your screen.
Yeah, I think it says like allow participants or something like that to share.
Oh, and you can share simultaneously. It says multiple can share.
Yes.
Okay.
I've never seen that done before, but it is an option.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like it'd be a little busy, but
I would
yeah.
bet.
So let me share the
Okay.
presentation. Let me know if y'all can see it. See if I can get this in presentation mode.
Like I said, this will be safe, so you can go there now and watch this. It's really okay. You won't be penalized.
I don't care about being penalized. It's just like I don't want to miss class. This is
Okay.
my social work class.
Okay.
But
I
I mean,
understand.
you will learn a lot. I argue.
Uh-huh.
oh, that's because she's presenting.
Right. It's the HBCU Cares Center for Excellence.
You're a clinical social work?
I am going into clinical social work. I'm still an MSW student, so I have to wait until after graduation to start that process.
Mhm.
But I'm going to talk about it in this presentation, what that process looks like.
Is it hard or no? Like, is it a
Well,
long process?
I mean, yeah, I'll talk about it. Like, and you can decide whether you think it's like hard or not. In comparison to some other options. So whenever y'all are ready, I will start.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Oh, I have to ask you for permission to record. I
Oh,
guess
right.
that's similar to
Yeah,
sharing
that's-
screen.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. I think. Do you know if we blew out a light in here by chance? Do you know if the lights ever work in here? I know they had been, but I was like, it's fine.
It
But
might be the breaker box.
okay.
I'll check.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's permission on Zoom. Like you have to, like I asked your
Oh.
verbal permission, but like Zoom does the same thing with sharing, like
Yeah.
screen sharing.
So I see the record button. I also see screen share. Is that under advanced sharing options?
Yeah, probably.
So
Maybe.
shoot, yeah.
Either that or you have to go to more, I think.
Or can't. Oh, I see more. Start focus mode or breakout rooms are my options, and then are you able to film it with your cell phone?
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my backup plan.
That's fine, yeah,
So
yeah.
I can film with my cell phone. I just didn't know I haven't tried to share record before either, so I'm not sure. But yeah, let me set up my cell phone. Do it that way.
Okay. Sorry, I do not know. I have some students. I'm trying to get them to log into Zoom now too.
Okay, that's good because I have some engagement questions that like I may have to answer myself. So
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna get started. All right, so hi everyone, my name is Ayana Alton and I am an MSW student, second year at North Carolina Central University. So far in North Carolina Central, during my first year, I had a school social work internship in a high school, which was nice. And now I'm currently in a clinical social work internship in a primary care setting where we do a lot of clinical case management, but we also have opportunities for like crisis counseling and short-term therapy with some patients. I graduated in 2020 from Goucher College in Baltimore, Maryland, with my bachelor's in psychology. So I kind of transitioned from psychology over to social work. So you can pretty much easily, scan this with your phone. And if not, I'm also emailing Dr. Chalk with the sign-in link. And then there's also an evaluation link at the end.
Okay.
Bye. See you next 2 weeks.
Okay. See ya. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Okay, so what is the program? So the program is through the HBCU Center for Excellence in Behavioral Health, and it's funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And it's currently housed at Clark Atlanta University, Currently, we've reached about
Tried
50
all of them,
HBCUs.
so I don't know, it's this room too. so
Um,
must be
and
everything on this
including
side.
Thank you.
Central State will be at 51. I don't know what my other cohort members who they've reached, but we're trying to make sure we reach all the universities that we haven't speak to yet. So why does the HBCU Cares program exist? So here are some statistics. So the first is that 11.8 million adults will not receive needed mental health treatment and counseling services. The second point is that 22.5 million adults and children will not receive needed addiction treatment. And by 2025, the Department of Health and Human Services predicts that there will be shortages for behavioral health professionals. And only 6% of psychologists, 13% of social workers, and 21% of psychiatrists have diverse backgrounds. And just to touch on the shortage area part, I know currently in Maryland, the higher education admission has a grant for people who work in shortage areas, and they highlighted social work as one of them. So that's definitely something to look into and see what your state offers for working in a shortage area. And what do we do? So one of the main goals of the program is to increase the number of ethnic minority students prepared to enter the behavioral health field and to increase student awareness of careers in behavioral health, assist students with continuing their education in behavioral health, and establish partnerships among HBCUs and others to share resources, recruit, and train diverse students for the different behavioral health fields. And I'll go over what those behavioral health fields are later. So what are our initiatives? So we have a few different initiatives. So we have the advisory council. They do oversight and collaboration across different HBCUs and fields. We have our website, and there it's a career awareness one-stop shop, and we highlight HBCUs and resources. And then we have the behavioral health ambassadors, which I'm a part of, and so we lead presentations like this one. But we also have career chats where you can meet with me one-on-one, or at least 5 of you, and in a less formal setting, you can ask me more questions about, my process and journey, and additional questions you have. And then we also have digital platform management. So we have an Instagram page where we post, fun programs at HBCUs that you might not have known of, and things like that. So the purpose. So the purpose of the presentation series is for us to educate and create awareness about behavior for students at HBCUs. Okay, so now we're going to get into the clinical social work part of the presentation, and you can see on the bottom right, this is one of my favorite images from my individual family class textbook, I believe, and it kind of shows like where the intersection of the helping professions is and how social work overlaps with psychology and counseling and psychiatry. Okay, so I have a bit of an engagement activity, which I can turn into a fun fact. So of clinical social workers, psychologists, marriage and family therapists, psychiatrists, and psychiatric nurses, which is the most plentiful mental health provider type. So who provides the most mental health care? So through some research, I found in this country that clinical social workers are the most plentiful mental health provider type, followed by clinical psychologists. And there's more clinical psychologists than there are marriage and family therapists. And while they're less abundant, the 3 aforementioned provider types, psychiatrists outnumbered advanced practice psychiatric nurses. So what I got from this is that because this is based in the US, that within this country, clinical social workers do the most mental health provider work.
It's a lot.
And I just wanted to know if there was a reason why you all think that is.
I read the chat too. So if I see anybody, why do social workers provide more mental health than psychologists, marriage and family therapy, psychiatrists, and psychiatric nurses?
Mhm.
Are there more of us?
That is a possibility. It might be.
We can build
This
Medicare.
article, right? Because this article isn't very clear about that. I mean, I have
Okay.
some theories, but that's one thing I hadn't thought about. There may actually just be more of us than there are other provider types. That is a possibility. Trying to think of another thing I thought of when I saw this. I don't know, I guess I was surprised because I feel like maybe not in the literature, but at least across the media, the assumption is made that like therapy is just done by psychologists. And so I think like it's just interesting that that's like not the case. And I don't think this is common knowledge either.
Okay.
I also have another question that's kind of related. And so it's the same 5 of the fields, but which is the highest earning provider on average out of all of them? Psychiatrists are typically the highest earners, followed by advanced practice psychiatric nurses and clinical psychologists. And marriage and family therapists currently earn more than clinical social workers. So if you had to do like a hierarchy, it's like psychiatrists, and then you have advanced practice psychiatric nurses and clinical psychologists on the same tier. Then you have marriage and family therapists, and then you have clinical social workers getting paid the least. And I was wondering what you all thought, was the reason for that.
Is it because
I mean, yeah, I think that has something to do with it, education. I also would say probably the scope of practice too, which I'll go over, like what they're able to do clinically kind of ranges a little different. For example, like marriage and family therapists and clinical social workers, we can't prescribe medication. So I'm wondering if that has to do with it. Another thing would still be, I'm thinking about like stigma as it relates to social work. Like maybe there's still people who aren't aware that social workers do clinical work, and therefore they're undervaluing their social workers just because they don't know. And so those are just a couple of different things to consider, but I would definitely argue that advocacy is something that could change that. If you decide to go into the field, letting them know what you're able to do and how you can utilize and, negotiating your salary. Okay, so here is the scope of different mental health provider types, which I feel like is going to be helpful for anyone who's interested in being a mental health provider, but you're still not sure what direction you want to go into. This gives you an idea of what you would be able to do and what you wouldn't be able to do. And so, as we talked about earlier, you have clinical social workers and marriage and family therapists. They can diagnose mental disorders and they can provide psychosocial treatments for individuals and families, but they can't administer, interpret psychological tests. They can't diagnose or treat physical conditions, and they can't prescribe medication. And with the clinical psychologist, the only difference is that they can interpret psychological tests, but they still can't treat physical conditions or prescribe medication. Whereas a psychiatrist and an advanced practice psychiatric nurse can do all of them except the psychological tests. So the only people who are able to do psychological tests and interpret them are clinical psychologists. So when thinking back to the information that we had earlier about, who gets paid the most, to me, thinking about it now, I think because the psychiatrist and the advanced practice psychiatric nurse, because they can also treat physical conditions as well as mental and prescribe medication on top of, the amount of school that they do, I can kind of see why they may get paid more just because they have a bit more range in a medical environment. And that probably is similar to with the situation with the clinical psychologist, because they can do one additional thing that you couldn't do as a clinical social worker or an LMFT, because they can interpret psychological tests when we cannot. So what is the definition of clinical social work? So this is coming from the American Board of Clinical Social Work. And they say that clinical social work is a healthcare profession that focuses on the prevention, treatment of mental health and healthcare issues, particularly behavioral and biopsychosocial problems, including those that are like social determinants of health and mental health disorders. And we'll use some different frameworks that I'm sure y'all are learning in classes, like person and environment, and prioritizing clients' rights, and that goes, along with the code of ethics, and an emphasis on strong therapeutic partnership between a client and practitioner. And those are some of those distinguishing features of clinical social work. So it is very mental health focused. So what is mental health social work, clinical social work? Exactly. So clinical social workers tend to help people with mental health issues, emotional problems, or behavioral problems through assessment, treatment, and prevention. And the most prevalent forms of therapy used in the treatment of mental health issues include individual, group, and family therapy. So if a social worker is going to be providing these kinds of services, they are going to need to have a clinical license or a certification from their state of employment in order to practice. So these are some of the different settings that you can work in as a clinical social worker. So even though it's framed as like very healthcare focused, you can practice clinical social work outside of a healthcare setting, right? So you have a private practice, you have hospitals, you have community health, primary care, that's what I'm currently doing, child and family services. And you can just see from this list that there's a lot of opportunities. I know schools, they have, here in Durham County, they have co-located mental health services. So an organization, mental health organization, has a partnership with the school system. So they have therapists who can come in during the elective times of students and do therapy for about 30 minutes. So that's another option. If you like want to be in a school, but you don't want to be a school social worker, you can still do therapy in that capacity, as an example. Okay, so what are the different roles that some clinical social workers take on? So in many agencies, departments and programs in the public sector specifically, clinical social workers can do direct, unsupervised mental health care and related services. So the work is unsupervised if you have your full clinical license and you don't have a professional license. And that's something I'll go over a little bit later. Clinical social workers, like clinical psychologists, are mental health professionals who have to have their own title and level of state license. And that can be different in every state, and we'll go over that too. So what are some of the responsibilities that a clinical social worker might have? I feel like one of the most common ones, especially in the medical setting, is doing biopsychosocial assessments. An example of that is you would ask questions about the person's medical history, but you would also maybe do a brief screener for depression, like asking them like how many days do they feel sad? And then the social component would be asking like, well, who's your current like social support? How many friends do you have? How often do you go outside? Where do you currently live? You may ask things about their income or if they're employed. So you would do a full assessment like that. You can provide diagnosis and clinical treatment that involves therapy usually, provide crisis and psychoeducational services. You can supervise and consult with professional colleagues regarding client care. This happens a lot, especially if you're in a setting with other helping professionals and you have a patient or a client in common, then you can work together to discuss them. You have some indirect practice work, so that's administration, research, teaching, and writing. That could be, documentation. If you don't document it, did it happen? As we say a lot in social work. And then you have, continuing education credits, which is something that you have to have in order to keep up with your licensure. So here are the common licensure requirements. This is kind of a summary putting really most of the states in the US together to these common ones, but there are going to be some discrepancies across different states. So for a clinical social worker, you have to have a master's of social work. It does usually take 2 years. I know there are some part-time programs where you can get it in 3. And usually the coursework is about human and community well-being. Some programs have concentrations in clinical. Some are generalist program like mine where it's covered, but we don't have a concentration for it. And then you have to do 3,000 hours of post-degree supervised practice. And that usually takes about 2 years. And that's 2 years if you have a full-time job that is mostly clinical. And again, that's post-degree. So after you graduate and you're able to get your provisional license, you can get those 3,000 hours. And then you have to take the final exam. And so usually there's a passing score for the clinical exam. And once you pass it, then you can be an independent licensed social worker. And with your independent license, you can have a private practice if that's what your goal is. But as I said, this may vary state by state. So you might want to go to the hbse.org website so you can see what your state's requirements are. Okay, so these are a couple examples I found. I tried to look on Ohio's website to figure it out. I think I did, but I'm not sure. So you may want to ask Dr. Trop about this one. So in North Carolina, you have to have your MSW, and then you apply for your LCSWA, and that's your provisional license. So as soon as you graduate in North Carolina, you can put in your application, including your transcript. You have to have 3 professional references and a background check, and you mail it to an office. I forgot what city it's in, but it's an office in North Carolina. And they go over your application. Once it's approved, they send you back a letter letting you know that you're officially provisionally licensed. And then you do your 3,000 hours. You have to send a report to them quarterly about how that's going. And you have to have a supervisor. So some people choose to have a supervisor at their job, so that way they don't have to pay for supervision. But then other people, they prefer to pay to have a separate supervisor, because if they want to change jobs, they don't have to worry about, getting another supervisor. And typically when it comes to supervised hours, I believe in North Carolina and in Maryland, I think it's 40, but for 30 hour practice, you have to set an hour of supervision. So I know some people, they'll set their supervision days on Friday with their supervisor at 1:00 every week. They meet with them. and they make sure that they document it because they have to submit it to the board. And so North Carolina's rules says that you cannot get those 3,000 hours in less than 2 years and no more than 6 years. So there is, some levels to it. I think the reason why they do that, and Maryland also has the same thing, is that you could have a part-time job as a therapist and you have a full-time job doing clinical social work, and you could get those hours in less than that time. But I think their concern is that it was being rushed. And so I think that's why they give that 2 years as a requirement. And Maryland's pretty similar, except instead of it being an application process for the provisional license, it's an exam. So in Maryland, you graduate and then you put in an application with similar things, transcripts, background, but then you have to pass the LMSW exam. And you can't start getting provisional hours until you pass the LMSW exam. And similar thing, you still have to get the 3,000 hours, and you still have to have a supervisor. I think in Maryland, though, it's every 40 hours. You have to have 1 hour supervision. And then the difference, though, in this, you have to still take the LCSW exam. So it's 2 exams. The one before, you can start your provisional license, and then one after you finish your 3,000 hours. So once then you can have it. If I did this correctly, and I check in Ohio is similar to Maryland, but there's no second licensing exam if you pass the clinical exam as a LSW. I think that's correct. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Usually, so you get a BSW, LSW, and then if you get a master's, just like you said, you could take the LISW test, and then you can, after your 2,000 hours, 3,000 hours of work and 150 hours of supervision, you would qualify as an independent licensed social worker. And I think that's what you said. So yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so it's very similar. And so I put these 2 main ones on here just because most states I found either fall into 1 or 2 categories. Like you either have the 1 exam and you pass it, and then you need to do 3,000 and then you have the license, or it's like Maryland. I think New York has a similar process where it's those 2. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so majors. This is good for people who maybe aren't upperclassmen yet, so you have some things to think about if there's something you want to do. So I would say an ideal major if you want to go into clinical social work would be social work. But psychology or accounting is all I came from psychology. I feel like the only thing in my master's program that was very new to me that I did find a little difficult was my policy class, but that's because I had never taken any class related to policy, and it was just a lot of social policy to remember. So I would recommend that if you don't do social work as a major, or if you're having psychology as your major, maybe take a political science class or something related to that, because that might be helpful. I would say sociology is also ideal. I took a few of those classes myself. I feel like that helped with psychology did too, but I think that helped with theories. I think that's ideal. Public health, I would say, especially when you talk about like health disparities and working with like diversity and difference in practice, and nursing, because as we saw, advanced psychiatric nurses exist and they do mental health work. So if you're feeling more called to nursing, you can still do some therapy related work if you want to stick with nursing. And then I have a couple that are like adjacent, but not necessarily as aligned. So you have criminal justice and law. I feel like social work requires a fair understanding of social welfare policy and advocating for human rights. So I feel like if you have that background, you may be better in the policy class than I was probably. But I feel like you'd also be kind of prepared on the macro level, right? If you came from that. I will also say North Carolina Central is known for their law program. So we have a lot of criminal justice students. So a lot of my classmates came from criminal justice and they did very well in our macro level classes, I think because of their background. And our forensic social work class, which I feel like is a given considering they're related. And education, like if you have a major in education or you've taken some education classes, those can be helpful. I know in education, sometimes you'll have like a focus on child development as a basis. You're gonna need that for child welfare. And also there are school social workers. And as I said earlier, there are clinical social workers who are school-based therapists for a county or a specific school. So if you do feel called to be in a school, but you don't want to be a teacher, but you want to help, that's an option. And if you're not sure how your major may fit, if you have any other questions, you can always send me an email. I'll have my email at the end of the slide. So, okay, prerequisites. So I did a little bit of research. This is like partially from when I was applying to MSW programs, but also from like me looking at some other programs I didn't look at just to make sure this was accurate. So a lot of them ask for like at least one behavioral social sciences course. A lot of them, it's not really one, it's usually like 9 credits or something. It has to be like a combination of like psychology or sociology, anthropology, anything that really falls into behavioral social sciences. I find that almost all of them ask for introductory statistics, which I think makes sense. I know in my program, we only have one statistics class, but it's definitely something that's useful to have as you have your research classes. A biology course, that really varies based on the program. I found that a lot of the programs that had a strong science emphasis or STEM emphasis, they asked for a biology course, whereas some other programs didn't ask for one. And so that's something to consider. In humanities courses, so that can be like history. I know a lot of HBCUs like require you to take like an African history course or something like that. So, I mean, I figure because we have gen ed requirements that you may take some of these anyway. And I feel like what will really strengthen your application is having relevant volunteering or employment experiences in the human services field. I know for me, I didn't do a lot of working before I started college, but I volunteered a lot while in college. So, you know, some of the things I had on my resume for my MSW application was like being the social justice committee chair and like looking at grants for the college. I did like volunteering with like a transitional men's homeless shelter. That was a program we had on campus where we would go there every Thursday. And we did like an art project that was semester long. And so I had that on there. So it's just things kind of similar to that that show like your involvement in human services could definitely be helpful. And yeah, as I said, like most programs are looking for like a strong liberal arts background. So I think it's okay if you have like a eclectic, you know, understanding. I feel like social work is a combination of a lot of different things and perspectives. So that's fine. I definitely will say though that employment experience and that volunteering in the human services field will definitely serve you. I know as BSW students, that's less of an issue because you have an internship. But for other people, if it's something that you want to explore, I would definitely say volunteering is kind of a low risk way to figure out if it's something that you want to do. And I'll also say, if your institution is offering any of these courses, maybe sign up for one of them. If you have any electives, just so you can see if it's something that you'd want to go into. And this is my part for questions. But if no one has any questions, my references, and here's my email. And this is like the final evaluation. So if y'all can please complete the evaluation. And as I said before, I'm going to email Dr. Chalk with both of the sign in and evaluation links.
Definitely, yeah. I'll put it into the video in the class. And thank you for doing this. You guys aren't too far from us, I would think. We're probably 5 hours, or is it 10 hours? North Carolina.
It actually might be like 8.
Okay.
I'm trying to think because we're like we are technically kind of in northern North Carolina, so it's not that far south.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So a place to consider for graduate school then too.
Yeah, definitely a place to consider for graduate school. A little bit more information, like our program is a little, it's called executive style, where our classes are only on Tuesday and Thursday evenings and Saturdays. And that's to accommodate people who want to work full time still. So you can have the ability to do that. I definitely think my schedule is more manageable because of that, because I have technically 2 part-time positions. So I don't know how I would have done that, if the program wasn't set up that way. So
definitely. Well, thank you so much. I know you may want to be in our other 1 o'clock class at any time. If you need to, feel free to email and we can let you in for that one.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I will definitely be available. I know they can see, my email if they want to talk about something more. That's definitely an option. I know I'm not sure if y'all's semester is coming to an end, but ours in the social work department is like pretty much ending next week.
Yes. Yeah, it's weird. We get combined fall break and Thanksgiving, so they have 10 days off and then come back and do exams. So.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I know it's getting to be overwhelming time. You might want to not think about career planning at the moment.
That's possible.
So yeah, but I was very glad to be able to present this, and I can't wait to hear the feedback.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and then we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yes.
All right. We'll see ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so I still did want to get into some of the stuff in adolescence. I found a quick short clip showing some of the stuff that comes up and how social workers and other workers try to get into the house at that time. So I was going to start that real quick.
What time's cello tonight? 6. Oh, God, you'll have to run in. Pippa's ballet at 5:30. I can't split myself in 2. Yeah, okay, chill. That's fine.
Sounds so weird when old people say chill.
Charming. What time's the help arrive? Joanne is arriving at...
Yup, it's time to go. Grab your bags, please. Oh, God, she's early.
I'm leaving now. I'm already late.
Hey, I was about to knock you. I'm Joanne.
Yes. Suzanne, She'll be done. Well, thanks for helping us out. We had quite low expectations. We just want her to be a little bit more confident in time for school.
Right.
Anyway,
She has a hearing aid, but she won't wear it. And I'm assuming there's no history of deafness on yours or your husband's side.
No, we only found out she was deaf when she was 3.5, which probably makes me a bloody awful mother, but because she had a bit of hearing in her left ear that was overcompensating, apparently that's common.
You're not an awful mother, it's very common. And you said she didn't qualify for a cochlear implant.
No, which was a real blow.
And what's her communication like? Does she know any sign language or is it just lip reading?
Just lip reading,
And her speech?
not good.
Right, well, I'll probably start with a combination of speech and sign language just to see where she's at. A lot of children respond really well to sign because it's less frustrating.
I can't see that being the case. Libby follows what we're saying really well.
Right, well, I'm sure she'll be fine then.
Stop, you idiot! I'm on the phone.
Okay, so Libby. Libby. Libby, can I have the remote?
She's usually happy when she's watching TV. It can be very difficult. I mean, sometimes we don't even know what's wrong with her.
Is there any pattern to that happening?
Oh no. You know what they're like at this age. All of the two are the same.
well, my exam starts in 45 minutes.
Yes, I'm coming. Sam's got his GCSEs and got A stars in his marks. So that on mobile number. I'm back in a few hours to see how you got on. You'd be brilliant.
Bye, Libby, darling.
Still got the icicles from the run. You should do the before and after photos and put them on.
How's it been? Yeah, good.
I told you she was quiet.
Yeah, does she ever interact?
Yeah, she follows what we're saying really well. Trust me, when Libby's unhappy, you know about it.
I think I'll just try with some more interactive stuff. I've got quite a few books I think could be useful. It's actually
Hello? Yeah, I've literally just walked in the door. Can I call you back in 5 minutes? Yeah, tomorrow. I said, yeah. 8:30, yeah? Okay, don't worry. Sorry, that was Paul's mum. She's a bloody nuisance.
Oh, it's fine.
I haven't taken her since she was tiny, but I'm sure she'll love it. Yeah, it's only 5 minutes away.
Yeah, it's all right. Great.
Thanks, Joanne.
Okay, bye.
You were ringing.
With Libby.
She's inside with Sue. She's in a good mood. Libby, I mean. Sue's never in a good mood.
Oh, hey, Libby. Oh, sorry. The door was open.
Looks like you can have a busy day. I'm so sorry. I've got to shoot off again. I've got to take Paul's mum to the hospital.
Oh, no worries.
Bye, Libs. You'll be good. See you later.
Thank you. Let's get you some orange juice then.
I just wondered how she'll get on with the sign language at school.
How do you mean?
Well, I'm not sure that many people know it.
Well, she needs to have an interpreter sat with her and extra support. And, well, I'm not trying to talk myself into a job, but I'd be more than happy to help.
Right, okay. I'm just wondering if we should be focusing more on the lip reading rather than the sign language.
Well, as it stands at the moment, Libby's going to struggle with speech, so combination of sign language and lip reading will have the best results. Like, I know it can feel a bit alien, but the basics are actually really easy to learn. Might be a nice thing to do as a family.
I'm just not sure how doable that is at the moment. Pip has ballet and Sarah has with the Midland Choir 3 times. But we'll talk about it. I'll talk to Paul.
Okay, great. Right. Thanks. Dad, can you pass me the jacket?
There you go. Oh, Sue, don't forget that letter.
Did you ever find your leather jacket?
Yeah, it's in the office.
She signed
She's probably hungry. Can you pass me that butter, Sam?
it. I think it means orange juice. Joe told me some stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, Joe's doing a good job.
You know, however many hairstyles you try, she's not going to go out with you.
Oh, talk of the devil.
Quick, someone give him some hair wax.
Morning.
Hello. Joe, what do you think of Seb's hair? It's cool.
Right, it's time to go.
What is it, Liz? What's she saying? Television? No.
No, I think she wants to look for treasure, so I'll sort that out.
Get him a drop, Ted. Seb, can you bring my briefcase, please?
Thank you. Right, so I'm on the bloody hospital run again with Paul's mum today. I think I mentioned last night I'm going to be a bit late again tonight, more like 6.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I've got to fun.
Bye, Libby. Again, sorry, never leave. I forgot my bloody purse.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I look after Livy.
Hello, darling. Is she being good for you?
Livy, yeah, she's great. She's so bright.
Is she? Do you think she'll be able to get a job one day?
Yeah, I think she'll be able to have a career in whatever she likes.
Oh, God bless her. Her granddad was deaf from birth. He had a job as a cleaner. I knew him.
Really? Livy's granddad?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, do you mean Paul's dad or Sue's dad?
Neither, darling. She's not Paul's, you know. I told him he should have left. He never listened to his mother.
Oh, right, well, it was really nice to meet you.
You too, dear. All right? Yeah.
I know that she's a good person. She's learning this language that I don't know, but nobody in school. When you have a child, you want them to be normal. You want them to
Just deaf.
I know it's your area of expertise, but you must understand that I'm Livy's mother, and I know what's best for her.
Of course, you know best. It's just schools don't always understand deafness. You have to fight for the support signs, but it is out there.
I know what I'm telling you. You must understand I've been a mother for a very long time. I do appreciate your concern, and Paul and I will arrange to go and see the head. I mean, do you think we'd send her to school without making sure everything was explained to her?
Hello.
Hello, Joanne. You okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm on the bike. Is everything okay?
It's just, sorry, this is a difficult thing to say, but Paul and I have been talking, and we think it's best that Liv stops the sign language. Why? We think that speech therapy is a better route to take. I'm really
I don't understand. She was doing so well.
I know.
For school, it's really important she carries on with sign language and gets extra support.
We've talked a lot about this, Joe, and we've actually been in to see the head, and they had a little bit one years ago. It was absolutely fine. You know what they're doing?
Look, I'm nearly here now. Can I explain it to her? She'll wonder where I am.
And I'm interested.
Okay, class, open your books, write the date at the top, and we'll start the spelling test. Number 1, there. Number 2, here.
Are carvers.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
I want you to look for the words reveal, pretend, and love in your readers tonight. I want you to spell them on Monday. Oh, so grumpy. I tell you what, if everyone does well in their spellings, we might have the DVD next week.
Kind of trying to stay on top of